Welcome back, fellow Jazz Bums. Today, we are so excited to have Michael Fremer with us. Unfortunately, Chris was not able to make it today, but he'll join us in future conversations with Michael. Michael and I.
Wait, you told me I was taking over for him. That's why I came on here.
Well, we were going to announce that officially, but okay, Michael, go ahead and announce it.
I'm taking over for Chris permanently. He's out. It's a coup. It's a palace coup, and I'm taking over.
Very good. So before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. Leave comments. Let us know what you thought about this. We love reading your comments. We also have the Jazz Bums Discord if you want to come and chat with us there. We live stream every Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So come and hang out there as well. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Felipe to get us started.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Thanks so much, Michael Fremer, Mr. Michael Fremer, for joining the Jazz Bums chat today. So I think there's not much intro needed, or if there's too much to say, I'll try to be very brief, and then we can go over most of the things. So Michael Fremer is currently the editor at Tracking Angle, longtime audio journalist, radio commercial producer, voiceover, stand-up comedy, a little bit of everything in the audio business from like the past few decades. Which I think only comes to show his track record from movie industry to radio stations. He worked at Absolute Sound, Stereophile, Analog Corner, Column there. Now he's back with Tracking Angle, which has become online-only publication, being kind of revived. And it actually just completed its first anniversary. I want to chat a little bit about this as well, a project that's been very successful and growing. Michael, welcome back. Welcome to the Jazz Bums channel. And we are so honored to have you here. I think we're going to have a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And I expect to have a good time. So we'll have a good time. I'm determined.
Now we're going to get started with some of your origin story, but make sure to stick around because we are going to talk about a new project that Michael has announced. And it is a jazz title that he is producing, and we're really excited. So we are going to get into that. But before we do, we wanted to kind of start from the beginning and really talk about kind of your earliest recollections of music, your early influences from your parents or from your peers. Like how did you get started, and how did you fall in love with music?
Well, my house was always filled with music. My mother was into classical music. She always had WQXR on the radio, so that was always on. And my father was also I'm getting over COVID, so excuse me, way into music, and he was a big Louis Armstrong fan and Frank Sinatra and those kinds of things. But in my house, you never could get too much into anything because that was considered like it was not good to get too much into anything. But I broke that mold. So what they used to do is I got into the early 78s that my parents had, and I couldn't read, but I knew what each record was because I had all the labels memorized. So I knew Columbia Records from Decca. I knew all the labels. And so what they would do is they would trot me downstairs, or they would carry me downstairs and show me off in front of their friends and neighbors and say, all right, pick out Julius LaRosa singing this, or pick out Arthur Godfrey, pick out what Kay Kaiser singing Horses Don't Bet on People, whatever. And I could pick them all out without being able to read because I knew the label. And then if two records were on the same label, I could tell which song it was by the scratches on the label. I knew which it was. So then I got into records in a real big way, and they were all upset with me. They made it happen. That's how I really got started. It was a lifelong obsession.
So would you grab stuff from their collection? When did you actually went out and bought your first one?
So my first single that I ever bought was "The Glowworm" by the Mills Brothers, which was a 78 RPM Decca record single. That was the first record I ever had. The first 45 I remember buying was "Mac the Knife" by Bobby Darin on Atco Records. I think that was the first one. And the first LP I ever bought was the Kingston Trio at Large.
Oh, right.
First record.
Wow.
And I remember where I bought it. I bought it at a record store in my neighborhood that I used to walk to. That was also a musical place,
So where did you grow up? What neighborhood was this?
I grew up in Queens.
Okay.
Across from a place called Cunningham Park. and
Okay.
it's a very nice neighborhood. And so to get to a real record store from there, when I got a little bit older, required me to take a bus and 2 trains to get to Sam Goody in Manhattan. And I would do it all the time until I learned that there were record stores in Jamaica in the neighborhood near where I went to high school. And I would go there, and that's where I learned about jazz. Well, actually, I learned about jazz. I brought the first jazz record I ever bought. Can I show you that?
Yeah, sure.
There's a guy named William Ellis, an English fellow, who's doing a book called 1LP, like the 1LP Project. And if you go on 1LP.org, you can see some of what he's doing. So he's interviewing famous people about their favorite record. So he interviewed Ron Carter. I mean, the list of people who he's interviewed is amazing. And he had a display at the Making Vinyl event that I was at in Harlem, the Netherlands last week. And he was showing all of the people that he's photographed. He's a very good photographer. And so he asked me to be part of it. So I'm in the book, which is a great honor to me, considering who else is in the book.
Yeah.
So, I met him Monday in New York City, and it was a beautiful sunny day. And he said, bring the jazz record, bring whatever record is that means the most to you. It could be any genre of music. So I brought this record.
Oh,
and,
fantastic.
I brought this record not because it's the greatest jazz record ever made. Actually, I think Coltrane's Sound, which was recorded at the same session, is a better record because it's got originals on it. It's a much more forward-thinking record. And this is mostly favorites, standards. But Coltrane had a hit single with this, if you remember. So I brought this because this was the first record that I got that got me into jazz. And what had happened is I went with my parents down to the Lower East Side where my grandparents lived. They lived in one of the projects that overlooked the East River. Back in those days, the river was the last place you wanted to live. That's where they put the bad housing. They put all the housing projects by the river. You want to live by the river, but the housing projects are still there.
Yeah, those houses are very expensive now.
Exactly. So we went to visit my grandparents, and I knew there was a record store on Delancey Street. And so I said, I'm going to walk. I was maybe 10 or 12 years old. I said, I'm going to walk to the record store. So I walked to the record store. And this is at a time when I grew up with Elvis and Buddy Holly and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, all these great early rock and rollers. But by the time I was about 12, that had all given way to Fabian and Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello and all this, junk. And so I thought I had basically outgrown rock and roll, and it was time for me to get into jazz. So I went to this store, and I said to the guy, and I remember, I can still see the guy's face, and I can still see the store. It was a small store. I said, I want to get into jazz. What should I do? And he took out this record, this very record right here, and he said, you know the song My Favorite Things? And I said, yeah, it's from The Sound of Music. He said, okay, well, I want you to buy this record and play the first track, My Favorite Things. And at first, you'll recognize the melody. You'll hear da 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 da, and then all of a sudden, it'll go away, and this guy's going to start blowing his horn and doing all kinds of weird things that you won't know what's going on, and you'll probably get a little scared, and you'll get a little disorganized and disjointed, and you'll get anxious, and maybe your blood pressure will go up, and you'll be cast out at sea. Just keep listening, and then all of a sudden the melody will come back, and then the song will end, and you'll feel relieved. Just keep playing that song. If you keep playing that song, all of a sudden, one play, you'll be good the whole play through. You'll see where it's going, you'll see where it came from, and you'll see where it went, and you'll understand improvisation and jazz. And so that's what I did. And it worked. And then when the Doors did Light My Fire a couple of years later, and the long version of Light My Fire has this improvisational center that's very much like this, all my friends got really nervous and they couldn't figure out what was going on, and they liked the single better. They didn't like that. But it was fine for me because I could follow it all the way through. I knew what they were doing. So
Yeah. No, that's a great one to start.
Yeah, he shot a picture of me, and it's going to be in the book, and it was really kind of cool. So
yeah, that looks like a beautiful copy too.
Yeah.
But did it scare you at first listen?
Nah, I don't know what was going on. I put on my Cos Pro 4 headphones, and because my parents weren't into that kind of music at all, and I remember when I started listening to, later on when I started listening to heavier Coltrane, my mother would say, "Why do you listen to that sick cow music? It's sick cows. You can go to the ASPCA and hear better music."
Well, now that you got My Favorite Things by John Coltrane, did you then kind of immediately seek out more jazz records, or were you just kind of slowly kind of getting into it?
The next record I got was Thelonious Monk, Crisscross.
Oh, okay, yeah, Columbia, right? Yeah,
and I bought that at a record store in Jamaica.
Okay.
Near where the train to New York to Manhattan was, a different train to Manhattan. And I bought that. Why did I buy that? I thought Thelonious Monk was a cool name. That's the only reason why I bought it. I like this name.
There you go.
and then I went to college, and my first, when I walked into the campus store in 1964, Riverside Records had just gone out of business.
Okay.
And so the campus store had the whole catalog of Riverside Records for $1.98 each.
Wow.
Now, $1.98 was a lot more money than it is now, but it was still pretty inexpensive, $1.98. And I kept buying as many of those titles as I could afford. If I was smart, I would have gotten a job in the campus store or gotten a job in the cafeteria to make extra money so I could buy everything in the Riverside catalog. But I got a nice selection of Riversides.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love Riverside.
Yeah,
I know that Kraft has reissued some of the Chet Baker stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe the OJCs will really dive into it since they have access to it. But I really would. I mean, there's so much good stuff. Like there's Johnny Griffin has great stuff. Sam Jones. Wonderful. Monk. They got wonderful records.
That's what I picked up. I picked up a lot of the Monks. I picked up the Mysterioso. I picked up 5x5. I picked up 2 hours of Thelonious in Europe, a double LP set, which I don't think's ever been reissued. I picked that up.
I don't know if I know that.
Oh, I could go get it if you want to see it.
Yeah.
I get it, but you want to see that?
Yeah, whatever you want to show.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm back.
All right. And we're back.
So I just pulled. So here's Thelonious, 2 hours of Thelonious Monk European concert.
Okay, cool. That's a gatefold 2LP?
Yeah. And here. The only problem is it says stereo, but they didn't record it. It's not really stereo.
No.
It's mono.
Like I bought this Clean Corners. And this I bought, in 1964, and I put my Diamond label maker tape on it because it was in my freshman dormitory. I don't want anybody stealing my records. I didn't want anybody, to claim it was their record if I put the Diamond tape on it. So.
Now, did you mark up the label of the record as well, or just the jacket? Okay.
So, let's see. Did I put it on the? No, I did not. I did not put it on the.
Beautiful.
And the good thing about this record is that even though it says stereo, they didn't do anything to it. They didn't electronically reprocess it. They just put stereo on it, but it's perfectly good mono. So that was lucky.
Oh, right. Okay. So did the label say stereo, or is the label RLP?
Well, it says RLP, but it says stereophonic. I mean, that's
right.
Stereophonic, right? See it?
Interesting. Yes, you see it.
But
yeah, so that I think that one was recorded. That had two different mic setups, or maybe I could be misremembering if it's another Monk record. But I think the mono and the stereo.
This is it's stereo, but it's mono.
Yeah, interesting.
It was recorded in 6, so
Oh, it's a great cover.
And then I brought. What else did I bring for you? This one, this one.
Yep. Yeah, I have a copy of that.
Yep.
Yeah, this is great.
All right, so Felipe, you want to take the next question?
Just Michael, following up now, kind of progressing. you go to college, you work at a radio station.
Yeah.
That experience, did that like expand your taste or expose you or thought more about gear and music in general? So
Well,
I was just trying to connect. When was the gearhead? I mean, the audiophile guy kind of was born.
all right. So essentially, I always liked, whether I knew what I was talking about or not, I always liked things that sounded good. And, in those days, there was no bass anyplace. There was no bass. It was, the 60s. In my area, there were no hi-fis around. And the only place you heard bass was when the school band would play, and then you hear a bass drum, and it was kind of cool. When I got home, there was nothing. So one day, I went to visit a friend of mine whose father was an audiophile, and this is the early 60s, and he wanted to play me Bob Dylan, who I'd never heard of. This is 1963. And so I took a bus to his house, and his father, and I remember the equipment. He had a Sherwood receiver. He had a pair of KLH-5 loudspeakers, and he had I think it was a Benjamin Miracord turntable. And he played me a record, and I heard real good bass coming out of the speakers. I'd never heard anything like that, So that was the first time I ever heard, and I was hooked. And then my father actually, his office was in Lower Manhattan, and we used to walk by Cortlandt Street. Cortlandt Street is where the hi-fi industry in America started, and it started as Army surplus after World War II. All the Army surplus electronics were on Cortlandt Street, which is where the World Trade Center got built. And so we would walk by all the hi-fi stores there, Leonard's, Rapco, I don't remember even the names of them, but it was one hi-fi store after another. And I would look in the window and I would see all the Macintosh and the Marantz and, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know what it was. It was like jewelry to me. But when I finally heard the stereo that my friend had, that was it. And then I lobbied my father to get a stereo, which he did. And that's how I got started. So,
did it have did it have a record changer built in?
It had it. Well, my father bought a Garrard Type A turntable with a Shure MPD cartridge, which is not bad, and a Bogan RP30 receiver that had a multiplex tuner in it. So it was the beginning of stereo radio. And then he made a big mistake, and the guy sold him a pair of Jensen Unaxial speakers. It was like a 12-inch speaker, which is fine, a 12-inch full-range speaker, put in a box this big. So it had no bass whatsoever. It was pretty feeble. So then I went to Grand Central Station for one thing or another, and that's where the AR listening room was. You know about the AR listening room? So
nope.
In Grand Central Station, which is a huge train station, there were these steps on both sides going up to a concourse, and Acoustic Research, AR, had rented the space and built a listening room right in Grand Central Station. So you could walk up the steps, and I went up those steps and heard AR 3As for the first time, and that was like mind-boggling. And I convinced my father to buy a pair of AR 2As, unfinished, got the cheapest ones they had, unfinished wood, just pine cabinets. And that was my beginning of having good speakers. So yeah, and from then it was, one thing to the next. Then I went back down to Cortlandt Street and bought myself a Dynaco SCA 35 kit to build. So I had an integrated tube amplifier to take to college. And I did that, and I got myself a dual 1009 SK turntable, which was not imported to America, but somehow this guy got one off a truck. I don't know where he got it from, but I got one of those. And then I was on my way, and that was it. And then the stereo magically went from my father's office into my bedroom. And I had a different thing at school. I had a cheaper stereo, but his good stereo went into my bedroom. And one day I was playing the Modern Jazz Quartet and European concert. And my father, who's a very angry man, called me, and I didn't hear him. I couldn't hear him. So he came into the room and ripped the record off the turntable and broke it over my head. Broke an LP over my head. And
Is it weird
fortunately,
that I want to know what record it was?
Modern Jazz Quartet in Europe, live in Europe,
Oh.
two record set.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that record also came out as two separate records. So, I didn't have to buy the whole set over again. I could go to the Danbury and buy just volume, whichever one it was that he broke over my head. So, yeah. So then I was determined to buy as many records as I could forever. And really
I would never think that MJQ would ever provoke such a response.
No kidding. I mean, if I was playing Led Zeppelin,
right?
Yeah, okay. MJQ? That tells you how angry he was. Very angry. Very angry. Man. So.
That's fantastic. So now you have upgraded a bit, and I know that you have. I've watched like all your videos. I know that you have. Actually, your turntable, is it like do you have the Air Force One turntable? Or you have something with like hydraulics in it, right?
I have the OMA K3
okay.
type.
Okay. And then you have Wilson speakers.
I have Wilson
right?
X-Boxes, which
and then you have a dedicated energy electric coming in, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I did was when I finally we added an outdoor generator, one of these generators. So if the electricity goes out, the generator takes over. And the process of installing the transfer switch, which transfers the electricity from the main house, from the outside to the generator, there's this giant transfer switch that messed up everything in my sound just turned into junk. And
really?
it just ruined it. I was so shocked after. I didn't think about, do I have to talk to somebody about doing this? Why should it make a difference? It's just going to change where the electricity comes from. If it's coming from where it came from before, why should it make a difference? But it did. I had to do a lot of research after that. I panicked. It was horrible. It ruined the sound of my stereo. But finally, I got it all worked out thanks to Rex Hungerford.
Okay.
And a guy named Ed DeVito, who were partners at that point in time in an electrical upgrade business. But they broke apart like Simon and Garfunkel, and so my electricity got rewired from the roof down with all new copper wire. It was aluminum before, and the whole ground scheme got replaced. I had a ground hum. I lived with ground hum for like 20 years. I mean, it would go away, then it would come back, then I would change a piece of gear, and depending upon the grounding scheme of the piece of gear, it would get worse. It wouldn't be a problem at anybody else's house, but in my house, it was a problem. I had studio techs come over here, and nobody could fix it. And nothing in the power conditioning world fixed it until finally these guys came and said, listen, man, you have to rewire from the roof down, and you've got to use good copper wiring and not aluminum wiring. And you've got to replace the meter box. It's corroded after 50 years outside. And everything got replaced. And when that was done, I don't need power conditioning for my amplifiers anymore. It's better without it. I still use it in the front end just to separate the digital from the analog, but it's really good now. So much better. Yeah.
And do you have multiple turntables? I know that you review turntables,
Yeah, there's always, like, I have, how many have I got here now? I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 here now and 1 in a box. And excuse me. So there's always more than one around, but I only own this one, the K3 prototype.
Got it.
Which the real K3 costs $300,000. I can't afford that. This one still costs as much as a nice house. There's a video I posted last week, a comparison of the K3 versus the Air Force 3 Premium. And the Air Force 3 Premium is a really nice $45,000 turntable. And the K3 is $300,000. And the only difference between my K3 and the real one is cosmetic. So it's the same guts inside, because I had both turntables here. And you can listen to the difference. It's the same cartridge. It's the same phono preamp. It's the same tone arm, which is the SAT CF1-12, which is about a $50,000 tone arm. And the only difference is the 2 turntables. And everybody on YouTube could hear the difference, although some people are in denial about it. Oh, well, it's different tone arm wiring. No, it's not. It's the same tone arm wiring, because it's wired straight through from the cartridge. Oh, it's a different cartridge. No, it's the same. It's all the same. The only difference are the turntables, and yet they sound fundamentally different. And I used the jazz record to demonstrate it, which is it's the great jazz trio. It's Ron Carter and Tony Williams and Hank Jones at the Live at the Village Vanguard, recorded by David Baker, East Wind record. It's a great sounding record. Same track twice. Same track twice. Yeah. You should listen to it. The only difference, it's on the Tracking Angle YouTube channel. The comments are hilarious.
Yeah. Didn't you pick up an East Wind at WFMU? Was that you?
This trip? No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I left it for somebody else.
Okay.
But I got a bunch of those directed disc ones that are fantastic.
Yeah. I have one of the LA4 ones. It sounds great.
Oh yeah, those are great. Not the best jazz in the world. It's okay. It's mainstream, kind of nice. But
so Michael, I think fitting on that way you're going now, you have the career like championing vinyl, but most important, I think the quality of the presentation and respect to artistry. I think I saw you saying that in an interview. I think it was that Music Matters one with Joe Harley. I think it was very like touching and interesting. Do you think this presentation, the musicianship, the quality, gets even more important or relevant when it comes to jazz?
Well, good musicianship is important every place, although a lot of bad musicianship in rock, it works fine. Just slashing away at a guitar can be great. So it doesn't matter. In jazz, I think musicianship is very important because it's all about musicianship and good playing. Although there are some primitive jazz players too that can be good. But no, it's jazz is about, it's like classical music. It's like, well, they've got good musicians going in and they have to play well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of bad recordings of great musicians are worth listening to. And a lot of great recordings of bad musicians are not worth listening to. Well, there's a lot of, okay, I'll say the guys that play jazz at the pawn shop are decent musicians, but I don't really want to hear Scandinavians playing Dixieland jazz. I don't need to hear that in my life.
So you showed My Favorite Things earlier. Now that was recorded by Tom Dowd.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on his jazz kind of engineering?
I don't like to say bad things about those who are no longer with us, but I think his engineering skills are overrated.
Okay.
I don't think he was that great an engineer. He did some good records. I mean, I've got this Bill Evans Nirvana record. You know that record? It's not Bill Evans with the group Nirvana. No, it's an album called Nirvana. It's Bill Evans with Herbie Mann, and it's Bill Evans trio that he put together right after Scott LaFaro died. So it was the first recording that he made.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuck Israel's on bass, and it's a really nice record. But a lot of people think lowly of Herbie Mann, so they don't know this record. But I really like it. It's an enjoyable record, and the stereo recording of it is all oversaturated. It's all distorted. I have like 4 different pressings of it. It's all distorted.
Yeah.
The mono one is fine, and I guess it was different miking. But that one's fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like all my Coltrane Atlantic are stereo copies.
Yeah.
And I would like to get monos, but those are pretty difficult to get. And I think it's because maybe the hard panning. A lot of people I think prefer when it's collapsed together. So
they weren't meant to be stereo records.
Right. Yeah.
It was like the early Beatles. They would put the rhythm section on one track, and they put the soloist on the other track, and the idea was to blend them together for the mono version. It's like Art Pepper meets the rhythm section. You have that record in stereo? Art Pepper.
I have the mono.
They never meet the rhythm section. And Art Pepper.
No, it's true. Yeah.
It was meant to be jammed onto mono. I've got a lot of this mono. I've got the original mono of this. This tape, the mono tape, was lost for decades.
Oh, right.
But they found it just recently. They found it in the wrong box, which is.
And Kevin did it, right?
What's that?
And Kevin Gray did it, right? Recently. The anniversary one.
Electric Recording Company did it also. Yeah. From the
I think they did. They may have put out both.
Those are good,
stereo mono.
Those are good. The ERCs. Have you heard any of those?
I have
No.
not. Felipe, have you? No.
No, I didn't.
I've always said if they do a Frank Sinatra one, like a Columbia old Frank Sinatra one, I would splurge and get it. But no, I have not. No. If they ever did, that would be the one where I would call up to get it.
Do you have the Frank Sinatra the where he was with an orchestra?
I know the concert Sinatra.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually heard that. I have a stereo, I think first pressing of it, and I think it sounds very good.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard that the mono is actually the one to get of that. I'm an admin of a Frank Sinatra Facebook group, vinyl group. And that's apparently what everybody says is that you want to get the mono version. And I don't know if it's because they put reverb on the stereo or there's something different, but that the mono is the way to go with that. So.
I've seen a mono and I rejected it because the stereo it's Frank Sinatra with an orchestra on a Samuel Goldwyn soundstage. Why would you want mono? But you live and learn.
Do they record that on like 35 millimeter tape or something like that? Isn't there like in the front of it? There's like a little box that says all the specs that they recorded with.
Yeah,
and they do great material too.
Yeah, he sings Old Man River on that. He holds he holds on record, and he goes all the way down and holds it a real long time.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It is. When he comes back up, when he's holding that and then comes back up, it's stunning that he could do that. And that he smoked like 5 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great Franks, and MoFi did a reissue of that.
Oh yeah.
That was not good. Not because it's digital. It's just not good.
Good to know.
So we talk a lot about recording, Michael. Do you actually enjoy or usually go see live music, live jazz, for example? Do you go see live stuff or mostly listen at home?
No, I go. I go when I can. I can't go as often as I used to go. But, I lived in Boston in the 70s, and Paul's Mall and the Jazz Workshop were right on Boylston Street. So, I would go to Paul's Mall, and I saw Bob Marley and the Wailers play at Paul's Mall, which is a small nightclub. I saw Little Feat play there, and then Miles Davis played across the way at Jazz Workshop. I saw them there.
Nice.
I saw Dave Brubeck in 1963 when Take 5, Time Out came out. I saw them play at Town Hall. They played at Town Hall, and I was there for that. And that was like the second jazz. That was the first jazz concert I ever saw, and the second live concert I ever went to by myself. The first one was Joan Baez. She played there also. That's cool. That's when I first saw ladies with hairy legs and armpits, and that was scary. That was
revelation.
It
scared me for a long time.
And out of these concerts, was there one that was like really, really, you would put like probably the best you've ever seen, and one that was kind of underwhelming, disappointed you?
I don't think I've ever been disappointed at a jazz concert. I saw a bunch of at the JVC Jazz Festival in New York. I went to a bunch of those. They were good. I saw Herbie Hancock there. It's great. I haven't seen a bad jazz concert. Really, I haven't. I stay away from the ones that are bad. You don't know sometimes. I don't see as many as I would have liked to have seen, but I've seen a good number. So
we teased it up front, but Michael, do you want to talk about a new project that you're working on and producing?
Yes, I will tell you about it. And this was a great performance that I saw. And so what happened was, a friend of myself, and Robin, Robin Wyatt from Mia Jama Labs. He brings the Mia Jama Labs cartridges in. Do you know him?
Okay. Nope.
So we have a friend named Jim Luce, and Jim is a concert promoter. And Jim, like he promoted the Caramore Jazz Festival in Westchester. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was pretty big names played up there. It was a multi-day jazz festival. And of course, when COVID hit, his concert promoting days were over for a couple of years. And so when COVID finally let up, he decided to start promoting small shows. So he promoted a show in New York called Jazz Piano Marathon. And I hold on a second. That's close enough to what it was really called. And it was held at the Clavier House, which was which is a piano showroom. It's a piano repair facility. They fix, repair, and sell restored pianos. But they also have a performance space at their showroom, which is on 9th Avenue around Midtown. And so one January, Robin said to me, and Robin's British, and I can make fun of him because we're friends. He goes, Michael, let's go in and see Jim Luce is producing this jazz piano marathon. I don't know who's performing there, but let's go and support Jim. And luckily, I said yes. It was a nasty, rainy day. And so we go, and we sit in a good seat in the front, and they have a beautiful Fazioli grand piano, and a bunch of young pianists got up and played about a half-hour set apiece, and they were good. And then all of a sudden, Rufus Reid comes in. Now, you know Rufus Reid, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So Rufus Reid walks in, dragging his bass. But he didn't drag it. But I say that because it gives it drama. He comes in with his bass and sets it up. And this young man sits down at the piano, and they get all set up. And Jim Luce gets up and says, I've known Rufus Reid a really long time. And I said to Rufus, who's the next cat? Who's the next cat that people are going to hear and say, wow, this is great, and really do something in the jazz world? So Rufus says, this is Caelan Cardello. And they start playing. And after the first song, which was amazing, and to me, I hear this kid, and I'm hearing Bill Evans, and I'm hearing a fearless pianist. I mean, he's doing these things on the piano, and the two of them are playing. And when the first song was over, I said, Robin, this should have been recorded because this is amazing. I've seen a lot of music in my time, and this is amazing. It should have been recorded. He goes, it is being recorded. Our friend Duke Marcos is back there recording the whole thing. And I know Marcos is a wonderful engineer. He does a lot of WBGO live concerts from the radio station, gas station in Newark. And he does recordings at Kennedy Center. And he was back there recording this whole thing. And after the second or third tune, Rufus says, Caelan and I have never played together before, ever.
Huh.
I was following Caelan around town, watching him perform, and I decided the time was right that we should play together, and I invited him to this event. And Caelan and I sat down an hour ago and picked some favorite tunes of ours that we both know, and sat down and played them you're hearing us play for the first time. And he says, musicians, people don't like the unknown. They're afraid of the unknown, but musicians love the unknown. They love to play when they don't know what's going to happen. And that's what you're hearing the first time we played together. And it was mind-bogglingly great from beginning to end. And one piece that they did was Rufus took out his bow, and they did an arco piece, and it was phenomenal, but they wouldn't let us put that out.
Oh, why not?
Because they said, we screwed that up. It's so good. I said, I didn't hear it. It sounded great to me. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't want it. So that's not coming out. So what happened was, after the show was over, I went over to Rufus, and I went over to Caelan, and I said, Caelan, Rufus, I want to put this out on vinyl. I want to, if this sounds good, it's got to sound good. If it didn't come out good, but I said, if Duke's back there, it's going to be good. I said, I want to put this out on vinyl. Can I do that? And Rufus said, yeah, we'll work that out. And Caelan said, that would be great. Now, I knew nothing about Caelan at that point, not a thing. So I go backstage where they were recording this in a closet, and there is Duke, who I know. And I said, Duke, how is it? He goes, I got 6 channels of 9624, and it sounds really, really good from here. And it was also being shot on video. So there's a video of this whole concert, which I haven't even gotten involved with yet, because one thing at a time. But it was all shot on video. And Duke says to the videographer, he goes, I want you to meet a friend of mine, Michael Fremer. And without losing a beat, the guy goes, oh, WBCN 1974. So the guy was a fan of mine from the radio.
Whoa.
So it was like, great.
Fantastic.
So Duke did a rough mix and sent it to me.
Okay.
And I knew this could be great. I knew it would be great. And I sent it to Robin, and two of us went back and forth, and we had EQ things that we wanted changed. And when I got it to the point where I thought it was pretty good, I called Joe Harley. I said, Joe, I want to send you these files. I want you to help me position the two guys on the stage, because it's only two guys. It's a bass and a piano, and the piano was recorded with enough separation between the left hand and the right hand that I don't want that. I hate that. I don't like to be putting on a record and you're the pianist and you hear left hand. I hate that. Do you guys like that? Yeah. I hate that.
Not really. Usually,
it's weird. It's
I want to be the audience. I want to be in the audience. I'm not sitting at the piano. Right. But this wasn't too bad. But Joe was able to help us to position it so the Caelan's over to the left, and his left hand is further back than his right hand, which is how it was live. And Rufus is over on the right, but it wasn't like in different rooms. They're like panned in, so it was very natural. It sounds like what it sounded like live. And fantastic. I worked on the EQ on my big Wilson speakers, and when we got it where we really wanted, and of course Duke did all the mixing and did all the EQ tweaking, and he tweaked it to our taste and to what we wanted. And when it was done, it was real good. So on a whim, I sent it to Bob Ludwig. I said, Bob, what do you think? And Bob got back to me a couple of days later. And Bob's retired now, but Bob got back to me a couple of days later and said, Michael, in a couple of years, everyone's going to know Caelan Cardello, and I want to master this for you. And I said, I hope I can afford it. And it was, I had to do it. It had to be Bob Ludwig mastering on something, one of his last projects. So here is the finished record.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Now,
hold on. I'm going to make you big. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay.
The photography is stunning. Stunning photography.
Okay, but this is an iPhone picture at the event.
Is that your picture?
No, Robin took it.
Okay.
Robin took it. It's great. Look at the kid's look at his face. It's so phenomenal. Okay, this is when I didn't know him. So first, I had to get a hold of someone to do the cover art. So I happened to be working with Patrick Leonard on. You know Patrick Leonard?
I don't think so.
Amused to Death, the Roger Waters.
Yeah.
He produced that. He produced the last 3 Leonard Cohen records.
Okay.
Those are great.
He produced all the early Madonna records and made Warner Brothers $1 billion. Anyway, how he came to me is a whole nother story that we could get into. And he came to me, and when I needed a cover artist, he recommended this guy who did the cover art, who was Greg Greenwood at Data Harvest Inc. And I think Greg did a fantastic job with this cover. The original title was going to be "Who's the New Cat?" I thought that was great, but Caelan didn't like it. So whatever Caelan wants. Caelan wanted Rufus Reid presents Caelan Cardello, and so that's what it is. So
that's a great cover.
I think it's got a Blue Note kind of thing going, and
it's like a very Blue Note-esque, like the duotone where it's a single color and then some typography nicely.
Yeah, like the
And so,
kind of different frame, but mostly the Blue Hour.
Greg did a great job on this, and he gave us all kinds of different samples of what we might like. And Robin and I both chose this, and Caelan liked it, and Rufus liked it. So we're on our way with that. So then. And it's a Stoughton press tip-on jacket, but
Beautiful.
Then with pressing and mastering. So a lot of choices. Once Bob was finished with it, it was a matter of just mechanics to cut it. But I figured it's a digital recording. It does sound great, but why don't we see if we can get it done at Chad Kassem's place, where it's Doug Sachs is the mastering lab. It's a tube-based cutting system, and I love the sound of that cutting system. So, and plus, if I could get it mastered there and pressed at Quality Record Pressing, I'd get it all in one shot deal.
Okay.
So that's what we did. And
very nice.
So Matthew Luthan's cut it, and Matthew.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah,
he's a big Frank Sinatra guy. He has put together a website called 1150.com. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same guy. And he basically is like the authority on which pressing of each of like the Capitol records to get. His resources, I've used that for collecting all my Sinatra.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
I
cool.
was collecting Sinatra back when nobody wanted vinyl, so you could get all the great original Sinatras for nothing, for $1.
This stuff's pretty cheap still. There's a few records that have gone up in price though.
And that's because they pressed billions of them.
I know. You can find them everywhere.
So Matthew cut the lacquers, and
Awesome.
it came out sounding great.
Cool.
And I took the lacquers to the Munich show last May, and people loved it. They loved Caelan's playing. They absolutely loved it. I also brought Patrick Leonard's new record that's going to come out. It's a prog rock record with all 70s era synthesizers. It's awesome. It's Martin Barr and Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, and Tony Levin plays bass on it. So I brought that went over well too. So then I went to an event at OMA, which was Christian McBride has a new album out called Christian McBride's New Dawn Prime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Mac Avenue Records. So I went to that event, and a lot of Christian was there, and a lot of New York Jazz cognoscenti were there. All the guys from the New York Jazz Foundation were there. And so a bunch of these guys were sitting around. The president of the organization was there. I said, hey, any of you guys ever heard of Caelan Cardello? This is at a point when I wasn't curious enough to even go online and search his name. I don't know what. Anyway, and the guy looks up and goes, oh, Caelan. Somebody's going to sign Caelan. Somebody's going to sign him. And I said, well, I didn't sign him, but I'm putting out his first record. And they go, oh, really? Wow, that's going to be something.
Now, is this like a Tracking Angles production? Do you have like an entity that is doing this?
It's on Liam Records.
Okay.
How does the label look like?
That's Liam.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay.
My dog Liam.
Okay.
Well,
Cool.
This is a test press. We got the actual record, and the finished ones are here. I got about 120 of the real ones. I'm going to take to the Cap Audio Fest. So that's the test press.
Yeah.
I sent the test pressing to Bob Ludwig, and Bob said, "This is one of the best sounding test pressings I've ever heard." I have that in writing.
Right.
So you know what, guys? This is like a fourth quarter surge that I'm having right now, and it's so exciting. And I'm so excited by this record. And Rufus and Caelan are playing at Dizzy's in Manhattan, November 20th.
Okay.
So Robin and I have bought a block of tables. We're spending. We did this because we love it. We didn't do it to make money. I hope we make money on it. Don't get me wrong, but we did it because we think this is an amazing performance of an extremely talented young man, and everybody that's heard it agrees with that, and that the performance and the two of them together is everything you were saying at the beginning. Have you heard anything that's amazing? This is amazing, and I'm not saying it because I'm releasing it. I'm releasing it because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I found out later. Then I'll shut up because
No, you're good.
Then I found out later that Christian McBride has been following this kid since he was 11. Because he's a graduate of Melissa, his wife Melissa's jazz kids piano school, or she has an organization called Jazz Kids. He's a graduate of that. And if you go to CaelanCardello.com and look at his website and see what he's done and where he's been, he's an amazing kid.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to have released his first record. I think when you hear, he's very lyrical and he's musical, and it's not really avant-garde. I don't know. He may be able to play more out there. It's not out there, but it's so the chance taking that he does, and well, you'll hear it. And him and Rufus together it's.
Is it going to be like the first of a series, likely, or just one, like a trial now?
Well, let me just say that if you want a copy, you can buy it at obviously at acousticsounds.com. You can buy it, pre-order it at Elusive Disc, or you can order it at Music Direct. They're all going to start selling. They're going to pre-orders. They're going to go up on their website on Friday, and the record will be released on November 1st. and I'm
Okay.
taking it to the Warsaw show with me. I'm taking a couple of copies to the Warsaw show to play for people. And Michael 45, you know Michael 45?
Yeah.
The guy with the big glasses from Germany. Michael 45. Michael is you know that Michael has a store that he sells Chad's records on Michael 45. And Michael is going to sell my record on his store associated with Chad's store. And I'm not big enough and close enough. So Michael will be selling the record too. So yeah,
I heard Michael says it's gorgeous.
it's gorgeous. Just like Robin, everything Robin sells in the audio world, it's stunning. It's stunning. I love these guys.
That's fantastic. So, all right. So we are recording the Wednesday before that Friday, but when this goes out, it should be up for pre-order. So we'll link in the description to the pre-orders if anybody's interested in checking that out. Felipe, I think Felipe, are you gonna pre-order this?
Absolutely.
I wish we had a lot of promo copies. We have some promo copies. I'm going to get to.
Yeah.
I'm getting one.
Yeah.
Trying to get to the New York Times and to Nate Chanin. You know Nate Chanin? He's a critic, well-known critic. I've got a few more critics I have to get it to in the real world, not in the audiophile world. This has to get out to the real world.
You got the VC world. You got to send it to the VC.
That too. We'll see where we're putting in a couple of weeks with the promo copies, and if I can get you a promo copy or a test pressing, I
oh, we would love that.
We have some.
I think it sounds like a great project, and knowing the story is also really adds to kind of the whole experience. Yeah, so that's really thank you for sharing that.
The liner notes are great. I had this guy, Michael Fremer, write them, and they're just.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
I got a hold of Patrick Leonard. What happened was his new record, which is going to be great.
Okay.
He went to Bob Ludwig and he said, Bob, this is before my record came out, before I even knew about this thing. And he said, Bob, I think this is a prog rock record that has overtones of the 70s. And it's all synthesizers from the 70s. And I got, Martin Barr and Tony Levin. And I want to put it out first on vinyl. I think that's where you can get a good buzz starter. And it's true. Get the audiophile community involved, then you can get a good record out. And he said, what should I do? And Bob said, you should call Michael Fremer because he knows more about vinyl right now and putting it out than I do. So, my life is complete at this point. And if I dropped it, which I hope I don't do, it's all good. I've reached this point where.
So a couple questions about the record. One, how many are being pressed for its first run? And then two, what are the songs that are on it? Because it sounds like they're doing standards.
Yes. So the first run is only 150 copies. I'm sorry. No, we pressed a couple of thousand. We pressed a couple of thousand.
ERC level scarcity.
Yes. And so this is like. So we did "Mean What You Say" by Thad Jones because Rufus was to play with Thad Jones, and then we did "Olivia" by Cedar Walton because they both are Cedar Walton fans, which was good. And then they did "Whims of Chambers" by Paul Chambers, a blues kind of bluesy thing.
Oh yeah.
And then that, in all honesty, I'll be honest with you, that was actually the encore. But because of the timing on the record, it ends side one. It doesn't end the set. Side two is it's the Nights I Like by Rufus Reid, which is a really nice tune, and then they did Benny Golson's Stablemates. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh yeah, it's a great track.
Good version of that. And then they ended with Tad Dameron's "If You Could See Me Now." That's it.
Nice. That's fantastic.
That was the whole thing. Yeah, man. And so I'll show you the records I got at FMU because I'm here, right? I might as well show you what I got.
Okay, yeah. So let's go to the show and tell piece.
So I got this Chico Hamilton record. You know this one?
Yes. Yeah. Felipe, do you have that?
It's really a Charles Lloyd record with Gabor Szabo, but it's a Charles Lloyd record essentially.
Very nice.
And I had a later stereo pressing, and this was a first mono Van Gelder, and it was $15. I couldn't pass it up.
It's a great cover too. It's one of my favorite Chico Hamilton covers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I trusted the guy so much that I never even looked at the record.
Oh,
let's see, but it came in a MoFi.
Yeah, let's see.
That's good.
It's the regular orange wagon wheel label.
Oh, it looks really clean. It looks really clean, and it's got the Rudy stamp on it.
Okay.
Van Gelder. So, how can you go wrong?
Looks beautiful.
That's good. $15.
In fact, deal.
The guy made a deal for me. He bundled a bunch of records. One of them is no good, unfortunately, and I guess he never play graded it. He just looked at it. It looks great. I'll show it to you. Looks great, but it's not great. So another one I got was Tad Dameron, the magic touch of Tad Dameron and his orchestra, which I don't know that well. Do you know this one?
I don't have it. I've seen it before, though.
Yeah.
Who's on it with them?
I don't know it, but it's got a bunch of good people on it. Clark Terry, Ernie Royal, Jimmy Cleveland, Bill Evans is on piano. You've heard of him. So should be good. And then I got this. This is the one. This is the one that is crunchy, and it's really sad. You know this record?
Oh yeah, I'm the one who told you to get that record.
More than what I told you to get. So it's your fault.
Yeah, I brought you that. That's crunchy. Oh my god, I feel terrible.
Yeah, it's so crunchy. It looks perfect. You know, I didn't bother to look at it because I trusted you. I'll never trust you again. So I will never.
Well, that's fair. I wouldn't trust me either.
No, look, it looks perfect.
I know. That's why I said it looks. It's like a mint copy.
I cleaned it on the KL.
Did you put it? Did you clean it? Did you put it through the ultrasonic?
I put it through the KL audio. I gave it the 6-minute. So now I'm going to do the Kermis method.
Okay.
Which is
all right. Well, I really hope that it plays clean. You know, do you think it's the pressing or do you think it's the recording?
No, it's in the pressing.
It is okay. Because sometimes those Riversides aren't recorded the best, but
well, at first I thought maybe it's a transcription from '78. It sounded so bad, but no, it was recorded in 1957. So no, it's just one of those things. You know, Riverside didn't have the greatest vinyl, but I'll try to clean it, and it is what it is. The music's great,
and the cover's great too. Can you show the cover again? Now I think every subsequent reissue had a different cover, and the original, that's the only one that has that cover, and it's one of my favorite jazz covers.
So what I should do is get a reissue that sounds good and put it in this jacket. Whatever. First, I'm going to try the Kermis method.
I can't believe it sounds bad. You know, I was so excited that I got you a recommendation.
I know, and I took your word for it, and you know the music is great, which it is good. I played it a couple of times after I cleaned it, but it's way too crunchy to. I don't mind a couple of pops or clicks, and it doesn't bother me. People who are bothered by a pop or a click, I say, you know what? Don't go see any live music. Because live music, everybody's good, especially classical music. They're all coughing and choking and sneezing. They're old people, and they cough and choke and sneeze. And if that bothers you, you can't enjoy the music. So a pop or a click is no big deal. Yeah. Then I got this one. I think this is from the same guy, or I don't know. You know this one?
No, that was a different vendor. I don't know that one, but I bet it sounds incredible.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's a Mercury, and but you know what? It's good sonically. But it really shows how great Rudy was compared to some of these other guys who didn't. This guy who did this, I think it was George Piros who did it. George Piros, who's a great mastering engineer. He doesn't know jazz that well. It's only okay as far as it's okay. It's good. Oh, but it's kind of distant, and they added reverb on the drums. You know, I mean, the drummer didn't need reverb added. You know, but it's still good. It's still good.
Now, what tracks are they doing? What Parker tracks are they doing on that?
So they do Yardbird Swede, they do Confirmation, Coco, Billy's Bounce, Après-Vu, and Parker's Mood.
Nice.
So it's good. It's good. And, you know, Max Roach plays on drums on some of it. He doesn't need a reverb behind his drums. And then I got 2 Serge Gainsbourg records. You know, I don't know, you guys are jazz guys. You know these records?
I've seen that.
I don't have it, but
and this one. So, you know, are you guys fans of Beck, or is that's too rock for you?
I like Beck. Felipe, you like Beck, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So, you know, Sea Changes, the record Sea Changes, on the wonderful string Sea Changes. They're all from this record. I mean, they're You play this record. Oh, that's where Beck's father got the strings from Sea Changes from this record. So I wanted to show you a couple of other records, okay? Because now
those last ones you just showed, those are Phillips. Does that mean that they're European, or where were they pressed?
Yeah, French pressings. French.
Okay.
Second pressing.
Cool.
All right. So then, when I was in Harlem, the Netherlands, for the Making Final event, I got a mint copy of this. You know this record?
That's a great record.
It's a sonic spectacular.
Yeah.
Absolutely sonic spectacular. And the master tape doesn't exist anymore. It's one of the tapes that got burnt in the fire.
Okay.
And the person that sold it didn't know about the record. It was 10 euro, which is fantastic.
Okay.
And then one last record I want to show you. And that's, do you know this record?
I don't think so, no.
So Tony Allen was Fela's drummer.
Okay.
And he's a great jazz drummer too.
Is that a Blue Note?
What's that?
That's a Blue Note?
It's a European Blue Note.
Oh.
It's a French Blue Note, all analog, recorded and mixed all analog at Conch Studios, which is Ray Davis's studio, the Kinks. So it's crazy. Recorded there. And it says AAA right on the front.
Nice.
And Damon Albarn plays on it. If you don't know who Damon Albarn is, he's a rocker. I'm not going to tell you what band he's in because I'll make you look it up. But it's just crazy, but it's really, really good. Great sound. And I think Blue Note here should release it if it's all analog and it sounds great.
Are you giving us homework?
Yes. Anyway, so that's what's been going on in my life.
So that was all WFMU?
No, those
were other ones? Okay.
Those were other ones. The ones that were FMU were the Charlie Parker record, the Tad Dameron record, the two. I had gone to FMU only to get the Serge Gainsbourg records. That's what I really wanted. And there's a guy there from France who had a wall of all of the ones that Sam Records, the Sam Records.
Yeah, I saw that table. That was incredible.
Right? They were kind of costly. He had an original of the Serge Gainsbourg record for $320, and he had two copies, and they were sold out first thing in the morning. So I missed them. And then I walked around.
His table was incredible. So that was the wall, and then he had a table. And I think his friend was there too, who may have been also from France. And I was looking in the bins, and there was just like the few things that I knew about, like Palm Records and Futura Records. He had those, but they were just very, very pricey. I couldn't.
Yes. Have you ever seen any of those records before? Like never.
No. Nope.
No. Yeah. Only the Sam Records reissues. So then I walked around the rest of the show looking for that Serge Gainsbourg record, and I didn't find it. And then I was looking for some Blur albums. We couldn't find those either. Then I was going to leave. And then I met you and got the records that you told me to get. And then and then I'm walking around a wall, and while I'm watching, this guy takes out the Serge Gainsbourg records and puts them on right in front of me.
Get out.
Wouldn't believe it. And he had like 4 copies of it, and one was the best one, and that's the one I got was the best one for $80.
Oh, it's a good deal.
Good deal. And then I got the other one. He said, yeah, that is good, but this I think this one is better. Took out the other one. I wrote an animated film, and it's up on. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it.
Okay, what is it?
It's called Animal Olympics.
And I know this one.
Yeah,
I looked at this.
I wrote that.
Billy Crystal's in it.
It's Billy Crystal, Harry Shearer, Gilda Radner, and me are the voices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Graham Goulden.
Felipe and I were prepping for the interview and we were talking about it. I watched the trailer and I could hear your there's one point where you definitely are one of the characters.
I played Henry Kissinger and Henry Helmut the Anchor Turtle. And I played the male and female lead in the movie. I was way ahead of my time. I played a transgender double. And over the course of the marathon, that the male and female, they're marathon runners, they fall in love with each other, and that's fun.
Well, you need to come back, and we'll do a straight hour on that. Animal Olympics.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about that. It's a favorite movie of the furry people. You know who the furry people are?
Is it really?
Yeah, so you know the furry people. Okay, so that's right there. Okay. Yes, that's a whole nother. You want to hear that? You got time for that story, or a quick version of
Yes,
it?
go on.
That's fine, absolutely. Yeah.
So Animal Olympics, we did it in 1980, and I mixed it at Todd AO in surround sound, even though it was done for television in America, which was mono at that time. But we did a surround sound mix as a full-length feature film that ran overseas. And Steven Spielberg was across the hall mixing 1941 with John Belushi. And he spent the entire week mixing one scene where John Belushi goes down in the fighter pilot into Ocean Park and crashes his plane. The whole week was, whole week. We mixed the whole Animal Olympics in a week in surround sound. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I get a call from some guy. He goes, "Are you the Michael Fremer who did Animal Olympics?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I found you on the internet. Do you know who the furry people are?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, we are a group of people that we play act the animals. We wear costumes, and it's like science fiction. It's kind of like like Star Wars conventions, comic.
Yeah.
But we role play in animal outfits." I said, "Oh, that's cool." He said, "And Animal Olympics is our favorite movie. We show Animal Olympics the way some people go to midnight screenings of Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's what we do." I said, "Oh, well, that's really cool. I had no idea. And we would like to make you our guest of honor at our convention in Irvine, California. Could you
No
come?"
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, "Well, I live in New Jersey, and I'm not going to fly out to California for Irvine." I said, "Well, all right, that's too bad. But if you happen to be in Irvine, California, at the end of May, this coming end of May, spring, it's our convention." I said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to be there because that's the show. The Hi-Fi show is at the Hilton in right by the airport. And where's your convention? It's at the Marriott." I said, "That's right around the corner. All right, I'll go."
So did they want you to speak, or did you just kind of go and just introduce yourself?
No, so I was a guest of honor along with this woman who came in full regalia costume. She was a costumer in Hollywood. She's a big science fiction. She does a lot of science fiction movies. So I went in a suit and tie the way I go to the Hi-Fi shows. And the first depressing part about this was that there were more people there for the furry convention than for the Hi-Fi show. I mean, they were lined up out the door for the. Then someone came up to me and said, "You know what the furry people are about, right?" I said, "Well, they dress and they play
Oh,
act."
God.
I got up on the stage and they announced who I was, and it was like big applause. They all knew who I was, and it was. I used to go to the Hi-Fi show and having people come up to me and take selfies, and and
Yeah.
I mean, at the FMU event, some guy came up to me and said, some young guy came and said, "I watch all you've changed my life. You've changed my life." I mean, how nice is that? I get that.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Believe me, it happened. We're vinyl people. I found vinyl because of all my protestation about digital. So so we do this event, and it was really nice. And then he goes, "Tonight we're screening Animal Olympics, and we want you to do a Q&A with the audience." So how could I say no? So I went, and I get up on the stage, and I haven't thought about Animal Olympics for a long time. And I get up on the stage, and they ask me questions, and I had answers for everything because I remembered it. But it was amazing the questions they asked. They were so into this movie. And then they screened it, and I stood at the back and watched them laugh at all the jokes, and there were all kinds of little things you could see in the corner that we put in, little postcard kind of things, little in jokes. They knew everything. It was. I walked out so high. Plus, I was stoned.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. It really was.
Well, you mentioned that young guy came up to you and said that to you, but you've definitely influenced my purchasing habits. I just pulled out a few records that you've definitely recommended. You had the 100 analog record. I mean, I bought a bunch of those, but two of them that I bought because of that was this Satchmo one, this Analog Productions. And this is a really hard record to get now.
I know.
And then
the light got pulled back.
The This one is on Analog Spark, and I don't think Analog Spark is around anymore. This is Art Blakey with Thelonious Monk. And then the final one, you did a whole video on this. And I don't think you showed this specific one, but the idea was go get yourself a Beethoven box. So I got this one. This was a reissue that was put out. I got it from Acoustic Sounds. Like there was like a nick on one of the records, so they took off. But it's the Carry-On Cycle. I forget. I think there's a better one than this, but this one's good for me. I like this one. So yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
Are any of them video? Are any of them crunchy?
No, they all sound really good. There was it's just a visual mark. I think somebody returned it because of that, and they basically had it for like half off, and I got it for cheap. So I'm totally.
Chad's got a wall. Chad has a wall of records out there where the defects are like almost non-existent. And he said, "Hey man, pull a couple of those records. You play them through. What's wrong with them? Tell me what's wrong with them." Nothing's wrong with them. I said you should have a sale. Have a sale. Let people come buy those records.
Those are good deals. Yeah. Well, Felipe, any final questions?
Well, the guy from Analog Spark, by the way, he got bought out by Kraft, so he works for Kraft now.
Oh, interesting.
Really good guy.
Okay. Cool.
And they're doing great stuff too. So
good to know. Yeah.
Just to wrap up, Michael, Tracking Angle has now completed its first anniversary as a website this first year. If you go to the website, it has grown quite a lot. It's been quite successful.
Yeah.
And you've been onboarding a lot of young writers.
Yeah.
So how do you see yourself, if ever, like being a mentor to them? How does it work? How's the workflow there?
Well, having these young people is great to be right. I have no children, and so it's wonderful to have young people to deal with, and it's great to be able to help their writing come forth and become better writers. So I've got this Malachi kid writing for me who he mentors me at this point. He's I can't even begin to tell you about. He's going to be 18 in December, but I met him when he was 12. And, people say to me, people who are weird go, a 12-year-old? And where did you meet this kid? You can just see where they're going with that. Where did you meet this 12-year-old? All right. You want to know where it was? I pull up my shag carpeted windowless van to record stores, and I walk around with David Bowie records. Okay. And that's how I pick up these kids. No, I met him on the radio. He was on the radio. He was on WFMU on the Tautophonic show. And my electrician called me and said, "Hey, there's a kid on the radio. He sounds like he's 12 years old, but he knows all the mastering engineers. He knows all the pressing plants. He sounds like you. You must know this kid." I said, "I don't know any 12-year-old kids. I live in the suburbs." And he calls me back 5 minutes later and goes, "Oh, he name checked you. He knows you. What's his name?" So I got his name, and I said, "I know that name. It's an unusual name, and he's all over my website and all over my YouTube channel."
Oh,
but, when you read a name that you see a lot, sometimes you try to imagine a face or the person behind the name by how they write and by their name. You just end up doing that. So I imagined this was like a 40-year-old guy, because his writing style was so erudite and so together, and his knowledge base was insane. And so I responded to one of the posts on my YouTube channel, and I said, "Oh, you're in New Jersey. We have to meet." And his mother got right back to me and said, "Oh, he wants to meet you so badly. Can we meet you?" Yeah. So again, even though I found out he's 12 years old, I still had this. I imagined what this kid looked like. He was going to be like when I was like 12, a dumpy kid with Coke bottle glasses and disheveled hair, and this kid shows up and he's like out of central casting of amazing. And you can watch that video. It's on my old YouTube channel. I don't mention the name of that, my previous endeavor. And look him up and watch that video. It's like amazing. And when he left the room, when he went, his mother brought him over. When they left, I called up Joe Harley. I said, "Joe, I'm going to post this video, and you tell me what the hell just happened, because I can't figure it out." And I posted the video, and my sister called me. She's a clinical psychologist with a doctorate, and she goes, "Is that your secret love child? Did you have a child like 12 years ago? Because he knows you, and you know him. You like know each other." I said, "I know. It's amazing." And you know what? It's 5 years later, and we're still like that. And it's the best thing. That's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And he reviews jazz. If you read his reviews, he reviewed the John Coltrane both Directions at Once record, And when he was 12, he said to me, "I want to review that record." I said, "Malachi, you're 12 years old. What are you going to bring to and that's before I knew how good a writer he was. I didn't know. That's the first thing he wanted to review for me, I think. I said, "What are you going to bring to the table?" He goes, let me review it." So I said, "Okay." He hands in this review, and I said, "Did you write that?" He goes, "Yeah. I'm going to publish this, but you sure you wrote that?" He goes, "Yeah, I wrote it." I said, "But I need you to add some stuff to it because I need you to talk about the records that Coltrane didn't release around that period of time, which you didn't go into enough detail about, as opposed to this one, which didn't come out." And the next day, he filled in what I needed, and there it was. It didn't need editing. It didn't need grammatical, and a couple of minor things. But he didn't like the record.
Yeah.
And he explained why. And all the other reviewers that wrote about it, it's a Lost Coltrane record. It's the greatest. It's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't come out because it wasn't that good. And that's what he wrote. And so Joe Harley called me and said, "Damn, that's what I would have written." He said, "Man, if I could have had a kid like that, I would have had kids." And I said, "You know what, Joe? It doesn't work that way. I know all my friends and their kids. That's not how it works." So it's just so great. He's such a good writer, and he's such a good guy, such a good person, and so I mentor him, and he mentors me, and in so many ways we need each other, and we have each other, and it's one of these things that's great in my life.
So, to you, does it feel quite an accomplishment thinking about all of the past in the 90s, records and the, digital and records coming back, and now you have such a thing going on with kids joining? Do you think you feel like a cycle, like a circle being complete?
I'll tell you what I feel like. People say, if it wasn't for you, it's not because of me. It's a whole bunch of people who believed that vinyl had to remain and come back. And I'm one of them, but I'm just one of them. And I have a loud mouth. And I can tell you, when I started talking about this in the audiophile community, I took a lot of heat. People said, "It's going away. Get over it. It's going away. It's finished." And even John Atkinson, when I went to write for Stereophile, and I said I want to write a column about vinyl, he goes, well, Mike, it's going to go away. Vinyl's going to go away, and you'll write yourself out of a job." I said, if it goes away, I'll find something else to do with my time, because I cannot write about. I can't use CDs as a reference to listen to music. That they're horrible. They got better, but still not great as far as I'm concerned. But they got better. And no, I'm one of the people. And Joe Harley and I used to sit around at shows when he worked for Audio Quest, and we would say, if only kids could hear this, they'd want it. If people could hear this, they'd want it.
Yeah.
And it's happened. They hear it and they love it. And that show, what was the demographic at the show, at the FMU show? It was a young demographic, essentially.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was packed too. I mean, that show got like after 12 p.m. That thing, you couldn't walk down an aisle. It was so many people. Everything was picked through.
That's right. And so everything I always hoped might happen and didn't think it would has happened. And I have great writers, and I have a kid writing about death metal and Black Sabbath. And, yeah, Dylan Pagan, and his first couple of submissions weren't great, but he's a quick learner, and what he's writing now is great. And that's the most gratifying thing, is to see someone come along as a writer. He had the goods, he loved the music, he was into it, and he's come a long way. And even the older guys that I've been able to. Because Harry Pearson mentored me when I got to the Absolute Sound in 1986, and he would send. I wrote a review, and he sent it back and forth, because it was mail at that point, like 8 or 9 times, red pencil, and taught me what I needed to know to be a good review, a decent reviewer. And I try to pass that on to other young people, and I think about Harry, and try to live up to what he taught me, and the whole thing goes forward, generationally.
We've been fortunate enough to make friends with Michael Johnson, and his YouTube channel has been such like a resource for me to learn about classical pressings, which to go after, the difference between Decca and London, the fact that there is no difference.
Exactly.
It's just like, there's a few other channels too, but that has really, besides jazz, I've been, just a little bit here and there. When I go to record stores, I look through the classical bins because now I have a few things that I know to look for, and it's been great. And he's come on our channel before. We love Michael. He's great.
Plus, great friend of the channel.
Plus, he loves Japanese. Pop.
City pop, right?
City pop. He's an authority on that, and to have him writing for me, and to have Mark Ward, the two of them are like, that video they did about the Deutsche Grammophon original song,
that was great.
Have those two guys writing for me. So they've got 21 writers, and they're all different, and they're all good, and they all write about different things. And it took a year to do that. And you know what? I pay them well because I'm a writer, and I know what. How tough it is to write, and I pay them, as far as I know, more than where I came from pays for a record review, and it comes out of my pocket, and I'm happy to do it because I'm a writer and I know what it takes, and so the more advertising support I get, the more I will pay the writers, and it's really good. Everything's worked out great for me, and I had to quit what I was doing, and my wife said to me, you better quit. We'll be fine. And you better do something else because what's happening is going to kill you. You're not happy. And right. And now I'm getting divorced because I took her. No. See, my comedy keeps coming through. I'll tell you. So no, she was right, and she made it okay for me to do that, and it worked out great for me. So right now I'm having the best time. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you enough for stopping by, chatting with us. I hope this is the first of many. We could go on for another 3 hours right now.
But, you'll get the comments. Fremer doesn't shut up. Tell him to shut up.
No, this was great. Felipe, any final thoughts?
Again, just reiterate your words. It was fantastic. We truly appreciate you coming, Michael, being so kind to respond to our invitation, and we truly hope we have more conversations on more topics. And hope I'm not sure if we should have Chris around because you're taking his place now. So maybe if Chris was here,
There's so much more to talk about. We can do it again and cover other stuff.
Whenever you have anything you want to announce, you want to show off, you want to do anything, just let us know. You're welcome anytime.
Nothing like this record. I've nothing like this new record that I'm doing to show you. But when there's another one, I'm not done with this. I have other ideas of things I want to do.
Okay, that sounds good.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we're going to link to all Michael's social media, thetrackingangle.com. We'll link to the pre-orders for his release.
And the app down too, if you could do that too, because
sure, we
work together. It's really good. They support me at Tracking Angle and realize that us working together is beneficial to them, and it's all worked out really, really well for everybody. So
that's fantastic.
We'll link it all, and thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. So for everyone watching, thank you for sticking with us. Remember to like and subscribe and leave your comments. Let us know what you thought. We love to read them and respond. And until next time, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.